There's not a lot of events in the States where you see these cars actively being hustled. I mean, you can go to Pebble Beach and see them on the lawn, and that's great. But there's nowhere where you can really see, experience, watch the car in action, and you can on this event. And I think that's really unique and really special.
This week on That Car Show, Ryan and I are joined by Tazio, Ottis, and Derek Tam-Scott. The three of them just got back from a week on the Colorado Grand, and it was as epic as you'd imagine. We talk about the people, the cars, and the roads of the Colorado Grand, what makes a good Grand car, and why they want to return next year. Also, Derek and Taz share about their business, OTS and Co, and what it's all about. They are true enthusiasts who really know their stuff, and it was fun getting to know them. We know you'll enjoy the conversation. It's That Car Show.
That Car Show is brought to you by Sheffield Watches. Sheffield is the storied watchmaking brand that was revived a couple of years back by our good friend Jay Turkbus, and it's seen wild success in both the car and watch enthusiast communities. Sheffield offers a wide selection of watches, many inspired by the iconic designs of its 1960s dive models, most notably the one that Jay's parents gave him in 1970, which ignited his lifelong passion for watches. Sheffield watches are high quality, reasonably priced, and a great value. Sheffield has truly become the car guy and car gal's watch of choice. Order your Sheffield watch at SheffieldWatches.com. Give them a follow on the gram at Sheffield_allsport_watches and tell them That Car Show sent you. Hey, it's That Car Show, and if you're a fan of the show, you've at least heard of the Colorado Grand. I'm lucky enough to say that I've just returned from this year's Grand, and so have the two guests joining me and Lindsay tonight. The Grand, if you don't know, is 1,000 miles, driving some of the world's best vintage sports cars and racing cars on some of the greatest roads that Colorado has to offer. Generally speaking, the cars are model year 1960 and earlier, and they really are some of the greatest cars in the world. There are always a number of significant Ferraris, including again this year, what I think is the only unrestored 1957 250 Testarossa, two words, several competition Maseratis, multiple Jaguar C and D types, a dozen or so classic 300 SLs, along with Allards, Invictas, Lancias, Bentleys, Aston Martins, and absolutely other amazing stuff. And what's neat is that it's also a nonprofit with annual giving to the communities we visit, something near $1 million each year now, which is incredible. And the names Derek Tam-Scott and Tazio Ottis are probably familiar as well. Taz and Derek are two of the three proprietors of OTS and Co, a specialty car brokerage in Berkeley, California. Taz is also a noted racer and a mechanic, along with his father, Patrick. And Derek hosts, along with Jason Camisa, the highly regarded and masterfully named Carmudgeon podcast, which is part of the Hagerty Podcast Network. So welcome, Derek and Taz, to That Car Show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Glad to have you. So we've been home for a few days now from the Grand. What are you telling people about your Grand experience?
First thing is probably that I miss Colorado.
Yeah,
it's a pretty great state, right? Yeah.
It's weird to not be buzzing around in like a 50s Italian car every single day. Like I think the first day I woke up and I was ready to jump back into that leather seat and kind of be deafened for a day. And when that didn't happen, it was a little weird.
So what'd you guys drive?
We were in a 1956 Alfa Giulietta Sprint, dubbed a Veloce, but it's kind of an abnormale.
Okay.
So very, very hot rodded for what it is, but all like period conversion stuff. 3-shoe brakes, has a limited slip rear end in it from a GTV that was modified to fit drum brakes in the back still to keep it appropriate. A big bore kit in a 1300, so still the original block, but with bigger pistons in it, and some hotted up cams and some suspension stuff. So a real hot rod for a 1.5 liter car.
Nice.
As you can tell, Taz built the car, more or less.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very intimate with it because I did turn a lot of wrenches in it.
What's the story with the car? Where'd you find it? How did it get to where it is today?
My dad chased it for quite a while. There was this show in Alameda, which is close to us, called the All Italian Car Show.
Okay.
And this older gentleman would bring it out every single year. That was kind of the car's outing for the year.
Yeah.
And my dad was really good friends with him. And he kept that car and an SZ in a hangar in Hayward. And my dad befriended the guy and chased it for probably 20 years or so. And then eventually towards the end, He obtained it, which was maybe 8 years ago now.
Okay.
And then I did a resuscitation to the car and made it the hot rod that it is.
Nice.
And that guy, Earl, was the original owner. It should also be noted.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so 2-owner car.
Wow.
That's amazing. So what inspired you to hot rod it once it was in your family?
My first car was an Alfa Giulietta that rolled over on the California Mille.
Oh, no.
I spent my
Before
summer
you got it.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
before I bought
good.
it in 92, before I was born.
Oh, wow.
And it was in a garage in San Francisco. And prior to me obtaining it, I saw a Giulietta for the first time when I was maybe 12 and thought that it was the prettiest car I'd ever seen, and told my dad I need to have one. And then I also told everyone else I knew that he knew that I needed to have one. And eventually one of my dad's friends said, well, I have one if your son wants to fix it.
Wow.
So I did. I spent summer break. A shop down the street from us had a rusty except for the top car, so I cut the top off of that, welded it on, and then brought it to a paint shop and did a ton of Bondo and painted it. Learned how to paint a car, which I don't think I'll do again, when I was 14. And then that was my first car, and I stupidly sold it for a race car. So when we got another Giulietta, I wanted to set off on doing everything that I would have done to that car.
Yeah, right
and you had that chance to do it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And so now that you have had the chance to fulfill that dream and then spend like a concentrated amount of time in it on this amazing rally, are you happy with what you did? Is there anything you do differently? Like, what are your feelings about it now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably some subtle things that I do differently. I'm pretty thrilled with the car. I think like these cars, there's a never ending list. And especially when you are like flat out in them for 5 days, you build yet another list of things,
Right.
like some that you need to repair and some that you would just like want to do so it's more comfortable. And so, I'm really happy with it, but there's certainly a lot I want to do more with it.
Well, that's fun because it means it's an ongoing, like you're still engaged. It's an ongoing project and you're not just like, all right, now what?
Yeah, I think there's these handful of cars that hopefully will be forever cars that you like just kind of continue to make better for the rest of your life. And then you're happy.
Yeah.
Right.
And you didn't have any issues on the Grand, right? The car was strong. You didn't have any mechanicals or anything?
We blew up a voltage regulator.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So we did that. I think like there were some passes you're climbing for a 1.5 liter car at elevation, like climbing 11,000 feet is a ton. So there's these times where, especially on the roads that are there, you'll be full throttle for, I don't know, 5-7 minutes, just kind of flat out. And I think that might been a little bit much for the regulator to regulate. So we failed that. The TAC failed on the drive back from Vail on the 5th day when we were dropping the car off back at Blue Chip, back to Denver.
Nice.
I think those were the two major things. Derek, you might remember something else. The transmission mount needs some altering as well.
Yeah, I mean, the car received a transmission transplant, I think, a week before the event.
Okay.
And so there was maybe a little more refinement to do on completing that swap, because earlier this year we did the California Mille in the car, and the transmission showed that it was pretty well used up. And so the car got a new transmission or rebuilt transmission before this event, a week before.
Goodness.
There was some further refinement maybe needed in terms of locating the transmission.
Sure. So you did the California Mille. How do the two events compare? I've never done that. I know it's a Hagerty event. I know it's lovely. It's wonderful, but I think it's a very different kind of terrain, right? And some different kinds of cars and things. How did the two compare for the two of you, I guess?
I think we both felt similarly, which was that we preferred the Colorado Grand.
Okay.
Which surprised me all the more because I think the California Mille is a more suited event to a 1.5 liter car.
Okay.
The roads are incredibly different. The California Mille is, largely sea level. I don't think you ever go above 1,500 or 2,000 feet. And the roads are very tight and technical and small, tight first gear sometimes. And so
Really?
there's
wow.
the car is very well suited to that, and the big Ferraris and stuff like that with this Jag XKs, which are a little bit, maybe not as light on their feet, are not that well suited to the
Mm.
Miele. And so you'd
Mm.
think the Alfa is happier on those roads, but despite that, and by contrast, the Colorado Grand has a lot of big open countryside where you're kind of flat out a lot, even in a big car, certainly in
Yeah.
a little car.
Yeah.
And so the roads are more suited to the car, but I think we still prefer the Colorado Grand for a
Yeah.
number of reasons, which we can go into at length. But that
Yeah.
was my
Please
comment.
do. Yeah, let's hear it.
Please. Because I think, people had come straight from the Mille Miglia, right, and done other events this year, and I think the refrain was largely the same, that people really enjoyed the Grand, and and we didn't even have very good weather this year, right? We
Oh,
got
really?
rained on, what was it, at least 2 of the days?
Yeah, good rain in 2 days for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think that the rain, there's a lot of aspects of this event that make it feel a little bit more hardcore, and I think that
Okay.
was the word that we were using throughout the entire event, which is something that both Derek and I seek when we go on these events. The Cal Mile was very, very fun, and the roads are great, and the atmosphere is great, and there's great cars, but it seemed. I don't think soft is the right word for it, but there was a lot of roads that you could cut out. If you wanted to go to the spa early, you could kind of do the morning loop and then go back to the
Sure.
hotel.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, it was
So it was sort of a
very,
choose your own adventure ish.
yeah. I mean, you can follow the route book to the T, but I think there was only so many people that probably actually did the full,
Wow.
let's say, 1,000 miles of the event.
Yeah, we felt like
And
outliers for having done every mile.
Oh,
yeah,
Really?
yeah, we
interesting.
were
That's
really excited
interesting.
that we did the whole event, right? That
Yeah.
we did every
Huh.
single mile, whereas I think a lot of people didn't do the whole event. And meanwhile, you have so many people here, like Nürburg in his Jag, that's
Yeah.
in a downpour, in a D type with a
Yeah.
helmet on, that
Yeah.
is out there first thing and doing every single mile and hustling the thing and all that.
Yeah.
And I think the atmosphere and the way the people approach this event, it just feels a little bit more hardcore. And
Yeah.
there's not really the option to do half the day and go back to the spa. You kind of do the whole day.
Yeah.
I think that we really like that the lunch spots seem to be at extremities where you had to make it out to the lunch in order to eat, and then you'd have to make it all the way back. It's not like you could go do 50 miles and then have an oyster and then come back. Not that that's bad,
Right.
but it's just different.
Yeah.
Well,
right
and
on.
yeah, like it sounds, because I know the Cal Mile is a very elevated event in terms of sort of the overall experience, but it sounds like the Colorado Grand is very focused on driving.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And I think that, some of the real enthusiasts come out and they bring their real cars, which I
Yeah.
think is interesting.
Mentioned Charlie
really
and
cool.
in that D type with that shark fin and that thing, this dark green car, right? It's just this epic car. And how many D types were there? I mean, this
There are
wasn't the
3.
only 3. And then how many C types? I mean, it was just, but his
Yeah.
stood apart. That's just an awesome car. And he's a hell of a guy too. So
No, I mean, I think the people in the cars here are unbelievable. I think that something that Derek and I worry about often is what the future is for a lot of these cars,
Yes.
especially in the States. You go to events like Goodwood or you go to Le Mans Classic and you see grids of these cars. And then you think that, at least people are using them overseas.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there's
Right.
not a lot of events in the States where you see these cars actively being hustled.
yeah.
I mean, you can go to Pebble Beach and see them on the lawn, and that's great. But there's nowhere where you can really see, experience, watch the car in action, and you can on this event. And I think that's really unique and really special.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
really cool. Well, and so for people that don't I haven't been on the Grand, the 3 of you have, obviously. Can you do a brief description? Are you staying in the same place all the days and you do trips, like day trips out, or do you move throughout the week? Is it a combination? Like, can you give kind of a brief overview of the event for people that haven't done it? Like me?
I'll let you guys talk. I mean, this year was a little different because we only stayed in two towns, and oftentimes we're in 3 places. So we did less moving from place to place. And so it's maybe a little more A to A this year. But yeah, I mean, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, you generally you have a place that you set off from, and you either return there or you go somewhere else. But it's a day of driving most of the day, and you have a morning stop and an afternoon stop in addition to lunch in the middle. And while we were talking about how the California Mille is really elevated, the Colorado Grand is not exactly roughing it either. For example,
Right.
there's a luggage truck that brings all your luggage for you, so you don't have to put it in your car, especially if you don't have space for such things, or weather protection. And there's a mechanical team as well that follows the entire route with truck and trailer and tow trucks, so that if there's any issues, they can sort of intervene and try and nurse the car to the end, or get it to the night stop and try and do a more substantial intervention to try and get the car back on the road for the next day. And so meals are all planned out, and there's a charity aspect to the Grand also, which is not present in the Mille, and we can return to that momentarily because I'm digressing from the question that you asked.
No,
but
you're
effectively, you are, either a couple days you will go back to the place you started, and other days you end up in another place. But there's a sensation certainly of going somewhere in the Colorado Grand, which I would say is less present with the Mille, because the Mille routes tended to be sort of concentric circles overlaid on each other. So if you overlaid the route, it would just be a bunch of spaghetti in a pile. And the Colorado Grand was more like, oh, we're going to Wyoming today. It's an entirely different state.
Right.
It's not like somewhere you might have passed by the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
So I think we only went through the same place like once or twice throughout the entire Grand.
Yeah, that's right.
Although we did spend the last 2 nights in the same place where we started from, which was sort of nice because you get a sense of how things work and how the parking is going to be, and sort of it's also a nice place to be, but Vail, that is.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty. There's definitely a sense of going somewhere for sure.
I understand that previous years, there's been a lot of different night places. I mean, I think you go to different places each day, and maybe that was different this year because of the amount of people that were on the event.
Yeah, I think this was a record year. I think we had 131 or 134 cars or some crazy amount. I think you beat the record by 20 or 30 cars. So it was a little different
logistically, that's a little bit difficult, right? I mean, I think
it is.
Finding that many rooms at a singular place, you need to maybe stay at a resort and find a resort that can accommodate that, and the dinners and the parties and all that.
And you mentioned going up to Wyoming, right? I mean, there are only so many directions you can go, and Nebraska really isn't an option.
What?
So, I think this was a great route. Don't get me wrong, but I think my personal favorite route is when we get down to Telluride and over to Durango, or down to Durango and over to Moab.
I heard that over and over again.
Is that right?
I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't do it every year, but it is. I think that's my favorite. I mean, it's just to get a little bit of everything. I think Telluride might be the prettiest area of all of Colorado.
Telluride's gorgeous.
Really
I think we're pretty motivated to return. So
fantastic. Would love to have you back. And speaking of pretty, the Alfas, even in the crowd, this crowded field of like amazing cars. And we should come back and just geek out on the cars a little bit, because there were truly some phenomenal cars, but the Alfas are so pretty. I think you guys know our pal, Dan McInnes, and he was there in his Speciale.
Yes.
Giulietta.
Mm-hmm.
And
we actually found him that car.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
He contacted me probably right after the Grand last year, because he rode as a passenger, and I think that was his first time attending the Grand.
That's right. Yeah.
He said, "Can you find me a Sprint Speciale?" And I don't know, some weeks later, I heard about one that was from a real friend's dad, who's a realtor, who found it in the garage of the house that he was representing for sale. And I said, "Hold on, I think I know somebody looking for this." So we, turned him onto the car, and he bought it. And fortunately, there were many months that were available to him to prepare it. Because the demands of 1,000 miles on any of these minimum 70-year-old cars are pretty significant. And there were a lot of mechanicals. There always, I think, on these types of events are always a lot of mechanical interventions and issues, failures to proceed, that type of thing. So his car, I think, ran perfectly. And I told him the warranty expired at the end of the Grand.
Yeah.
And then I think his starter failed on the way home. So,
oh my gosh.
That's when you want it to happen.
The important part is he made it through the event. I love that it was like a semi barn find, a garage find.
Yeah, that was neat.
Yeah.
That was neat. And
Yeah.
I'm connecting the dots now. And it was also very neat to see Dan and his dad, Billy, win one of the awards this year. I think it's the first time. It's an award that's intended for someone who's sort of passing it down to the next generation. This, the spirit of enthusiasm, the spirit of the grand. Yeah, this time around, it was from son to father, which was a little different. But I couldn't think of two more meaningful, or a more meaningful couple of people for it to go to. And
that's really
I got a little teary eyed when that all went down that last night, that last dinner. But
yeah, you could tell how much it meant to them, which was really cool.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it was certainly special.
He separately provided us with the context that his mother was no longer around and they were kind of the only two left, and that added even more to it, as if it wasn't already enough emotional content to it.
Yeah.
Really special.
Yeah.
Well, and for them to get to do that together, I think, like you were saying, Ryan, like there's a lot of, not a lot of parents and adult children get to experience that. And for that to be acknowledged is really special. I mean, really, Dan's such a fixture in the Colorado community, but also Southern California, so he's such a positive addition to the car community. So that's really fun.
He is. And now I know where he gets it from. I think it was Thursday night. Dan and I said, good night and went back to our respective rooms, I think after a drink after dinner. Meanwhile, his dad, Billy, who I think is nearing 80, was out till 2:30 in the morning with one of those gangs of folks closing down a dive bar. So I think he had a great time. Yeah. And they look so good doing it. Again, that car is so pretty. All the Alfas, again, even in that crowded field, the Alfas look so good. And I got to give you guys a lot of credit too, because you cut a good look coming in with the white jackets, the OTS and Co jackets. I thought that was pretty smart. So well done.
Thank you for that. We, we've both, I think, grew up in this space, interacting with these cars and, learning all the good information and developing our taste from the people who came before us. And that's where our passion for this era of car comes from. And that's part of why we're so enthusiastic to share this entire era of cars, which, one of our colleagues who's high school age basically called them all pre-war cars. He referred to a car from the 1980s as a pre-war car today.
Anything before Nam, right? Yeah.
Hold on now. Which war are we? Wait
exactly. He's talking about the Gulf War.
Right.
Right. Yeah. That's
so, Taz and I were lucky to grow up around this stuff, and sort of, even though we were it's stuff from decades before we were born, we as youths interacted with a lot and developed firsthand appreciation, which I think is so important for having enthusiasm for these types of cars, because if you don't have any firsthand interaction with it, it's not meaningful to you. And these events are exactly the types of interactions that make these cars meaningful to the people who come in contact with them and ensure that they continue to be relevant. And I firmly believe that the combination of the Grand and the Cal Mille and the Mille Miglia Storico and all the events in Europe ensure that cars of this era continue to be sought after. I mean, I've talked to so many people who said, I bought a car of this era for this event because I wanted to attend it. And it's creating and supporting the continued demand and interest in these cars. So I'm really enthusiastic about that aspect, because I love these cars and I want more people to see them and love them in the same way that I do.
That's really cool. And that's, I think that's reassuring to everybody in the car world, because there's so much discussion, I think, founded or not, like, do young kids want to get their licenses? Do they care about cars? They care about driving. And I think you're right. Like, more, if you get the chance to have a, kind of once in a lifetime experience like that with these cars, that's an emotional connection that like is going to last.
It's an important point, because, the Grand has been around since I think 1989, and the cars were also 1960 and earlier in 1989, and that is not a sliding scale. Like, that hasn't changed. It will never change. So think about a car now that's 29 years old, right? And what a different event it would be if we were all, I don't know, E30s. I don't know, what would that even, not even like I mean, it's just, those aren't old cars, right?
Yeah.
They don't, it doesn't feel like it. I mean, 1999 was 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, basically, I assume you guys are in your 30s, early 30s or so.
Yeah.
So like lower.
Late 30s.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I turned 30 for the event.
Right on. Okay.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Just for you. Yeah. Fantastic. It's, but it's, you wouldn't necessarily have had, experience with these cars, and, you do wonder about the future of things, and it is so important to bring younger people in, and it'll be it'll be a challenge, I think, but the cars are just so inherently great, right? They're just great in a way that, that will never be made again, as you know.
I think that's part of why we were there. I mean,
Yeah.
this was the first time we tried to do it, but my sense was that there was some effort to bring a new, group of people, younger group of people on board. And I thought that the age mix was certainly more varied than I had seen, for example, on the Cal Mille. There were certainly younger people there, and some with pretty heavy cars.
Yeah.
So, I was encouraged to see that, and I'm glad that the organizers are actively trying to shift the demographics or move the average age down, especially because it helps ensure the future of the event. It's run by a board, and those guys are thinking about the long-term viability and wanting to ensure that it continues to happen. So we were delighted to be able to help with that.
Right.
Awesome. Well,
shout
out to Tom Horan and the Grand board, who really do a fantastic job. And I know that bringing younger folks in is certainly something that's that's at the forefront right now. And you mentioned the heavy cars. Can we talk about the heavy cars? Because I was shocked the first time I walked into that garage a few years ago, right, at the stuff that was there. What stood out for you guys?
Well, if you want to start heavy, I think you have to talk about the pre-war Bentleys.
Oh yeah,
those are all very heavy.
Yeah,
and
literally and figuratively, right?
Yes, literally and figuratively. I mean, those cars I think there must have been a feature of them. I noticed them all parked together one day at lunch, and there was a high incidence of them, 6-7 cars.
Yeah, they're always popular. Yeah.
And these are, Cricklewood Bentleys, which is the original Bentley, not like after the Rolls-Royce Bentley, because Rolls-Royce bought Bentley in 1931. And also all the Bentleys that won Le Mans from before 1931. Yeah. And most of those Bentleys, with the exception of one, were all the pre-Rolls-Royce Le Mans winning era Bentleys, which are just these big, massive, Ettore Bugatti called them the world's fastest lorries. Because they're so large, they look like steam engines and probably drive like them too. But those guys are super hardcore.
Oh yeah, they drive the hell out of them.
He was saying that they're among the most reliable cars. Like the least interventions that they have to do are on those old Bentleys, probably because they're effectively steam powered. I don't know.
That's incredible, because that wouldn't be my first guess.
No.
If you had to sort of
but I think they're so overbuilt. They couldn't
that's what it is.
Do math and say this is how strong something needs to be. They're just going to make it like a cast iron pot and say it's probably good enough. And by a factor of 3.
Yeah,
and it's so interesting. Some are steel bodied, some have cloth bodies. Right, some are short wheelbase, some are long wheelbase. I think the move is you get the short wheelbase, but you get the engine from the long wheelbase car, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So it's the 8-liter is the biggest engine that they did, and the 8-liter cars were never raced. The 8-liters were big, fast sedans or cabriolets. They were luxury cars, and so what you do is you take the 4-cylinder, like the 4.5-liter car, and put the 8-liter engine in it, and then it's it's like doing a big block. It's an LS swap.
Right, the original hot rodding. Yeah. I love it.
In a Bentley.
I think those drivers are some of the biggest characters on the Grand each year too. I
would imagine
it's a different breed. That's a different breed.
Yeah, I think there's an ongoing joke that none of them will put their tops up, right? I mean, they will.
But we saw them with the roofs up, and we made fun of them and told them they'd all gone soft for erecting their tops.
Yeah, but they took it. I mean, they felt bad. Like you saw that they were.
You could see they were guilty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're like, this is well-deserved ribbing.
Yeah.
We've earned this.
Yeah. So from heavy. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, one question I have for you, Ryan, is it seems like maybe in past years there was more, not just the Bentleys, but there was more pre-war cars. And there was the Riley there, right? But we didn't see any Bugattis. And the only Alfa we saw was the 6C 1750 Zagato car. And it didn't take part in the Grand. And it was like probably my second favorite car of the event. In the garages when I saw it, and I was so excited to see it actually take part in the event. And it didn't. I think it was someone's backup car. I think it was a great backup car to have. But I'm curious. In previous years, was there more pre-war Alphas and Bugattis?
So you bring up a good point. Most years there's a feature car, And the feature car is something that maybe wouldn't ordinarily be, represented in large, numbers. And sometimes it's a car that wouldn't ordinarily qualify. So a couple years ago, we did the 73 Porsche RS, Carrera RS. And I think we had like 15 or something, which was just cool to see. So, there were Tourings, there were lightweights, there were everything. Last year, it was actually Alfa 6Cs and 8Cs, so pre-war cars. Yeah. And I think we had 8 or 10, and that was so cool because those are just cars you don't see every day. I was in one, and I started talking to the owner, and I said, well, tell me a little bit about the history of this one. And he said, well, this belonged to the war secretary of Mussolini, but I have another car that actually belonged to Mussolini. I mean, these cars are just, they're oozing history, right? Yeah. I mean, it's talk about patina, but this is like a level beyond. And then, so many of them are that great Alfa red, that dark red, I don't know what that's called.
Well, it sounds like Lamont brought his Tipo B last year, which won Monaco, and also had Nuvolari history maybe in Belgium, right?
Yes.
That's a super, any Grand Prix car like that is unbelievable. And then to think about taking a Grand Prix car like that 1,000 miles in Colorado flat out would be also wild.
That's a serious undertaking.
Not just 1,000 miles, Taz, but I followed him. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the $1 Million Highway here in Colorado. So it is known as one of the most dangerous roads in the country. Right. It's a road that wouldn't and couldn't be built now, but it started as like a toll road for like Conestoga wagons or something back in the day. And it goes from Ouray, Colorado to, is it Silverton? Kind of down there by Durango. And it's, I think 34 or 36 miles that literally is just on the edge of basically a ledge that's cut out of this mountain. And every year people drive off it. I mean, there's no shoulder, if you're on that cliffside, there's the white line and then that's death. Right. And there are parts where the road has fallen away and it's sort of scalloped and it's terrifying. I stumbled across that road accidentally years ago when we moved to Colorado, but I got to follow Mott in that car last year as he drove that road and it started to rain and sleet. And I'm seeing this car just move and I'm just like in a trance. Right. I mean, it's like, it was magical. It's just absolutely magical. And we should give a shout out to our friends at Mercedes-Benz who bring a fleet of 6 or 8 AMG cars every year in case you happen to need a car, your car breaks down. But I was in an AMG GT, which was already pretty cool, behind him, giving him proper space and all that, but just watching that car move. I mean, it transcended sort of the event, right? It sort of took you out of where you were in space and time. And it was just, not to get weird on you, but it was really magical. It was awesome.
It sounds like it was life-changing.
Yeah. So I'm going to shut up now and we'll move on, but it was a moment. I had a moment that day. And
no, I think that's cool though. I mean, I think that is really seriously part of the charm and the magic of the event is that you get to see the cars in action.
Yes.
Right. You don't see that anywhere unless you go to another country, really.
Well, even California Mila, I think there was this one pre-war car on the entire California Mila.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
27.
Oh, yeah. Another amazing car you just don't see.
That's amazing.
But there were other, some number of pre-war cars. It was less than 10 probably, but maybe around 10.
Yeah. Well, to bring this back to your original question, there wasn't a feature car this year. So that doesn't happen every year. I'm sure, we'll have another feature car next year, but
it doesn't seem like you really need it. I mean, there was like 6 short wheelbases. There was like 14 or 15 300 SL or gull wings, right? I mean, there's like 2 pretty good features right there. Getting that many either in one
2
place.
2 Cal Spiders.
Yes.
2 PDFs.
Yeah. And then stuff you just don't see like that Invicta, right?
Yeah.
You just don't, I didn't know what that was until I started working with the Grand. I mean, that's just something you don't see. And it's funny that the 300 SLs are sort of like the cheater cars, right? Because they're easy to drive. They don't break down. There was one this year. I mean, they're easy and, you're lucky to see one somewhere and to see, 14 or whatever. It's just,
it's an unimaginative choice in this context.
It is.
Which is wild, right?
Yeah.
But it makes a ton of sense. It ensures you're going to get where you were trying to go. And it has the cubic inches, the performance to be genuinely useful because, the other choice to ensure that you're getting where you're going to try to go is the 356, but that's why there's a lot of hot rod 356s because these guys are trying to make horsepower from a car that wouldn't originally have done that. And the 300 SL is also the solution to that, which is to have something with reasonable performance and durability and, just is a good grand car. So now I understand the phrase that X is a good grand car.
Yes.
and what that means versus, what might be a good Cal Melee car, and they're different answers.
Yes.
Right.
No, I'm glad you picked up on that. And sort of to that end, I mean, the Emery Outlaws, the 356s have sort of become, the cheat code. And because it's the Grand who was there, but Rod Emery co-driving with Tom, the chair. And I don't know if you got, any time with Rod, but he's a neat guy, hell of a nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, the way that he's transformed those cars, and the way that the amount of sort of gravitas around his name and the cars that he builds has really brought those cars to an entirely new level.
Yeah. Yeah, I drove with him one day. So 5 hours in the car with anyone, as a test, right? I mean, it's a long time, especially in an old car. And I was impressed with a couple of things. He was driving. I was in one of his customer cars, not a squeak, not a rattle. Right. And if you've been in an original 356, even a restored one, that's just not a thing. So I don't know what magic he does to those cars. But also 5 hours, and it was like 20 minutes. He was a great storyteller. He told the whole story about how the business began. He lost his father in the week before the Grand, and yet delivered Tom's Emery and 2 other customer cars. Right. Just a neat guy. And I now I want an Emery too, right? They're great, right? They solve all the problems that a standard 356 might have for something.
That's how they get you. You go on the Grand and ride in one, and he's like, "This is the secret."
It's also interesting to provide something that is a little bit more modern as an option for the event too, which I think is interesting. I mean, I guarantee you that there's no other car on the Grand that has like throttle bodies and Motec.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, just to say that in correlation to the Grand almost seems like abnormal.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cool way where, one also might not know looking from the outside in. And I think that's the neat part. Yeah. But also it does make it a cheater car.
Yeah. But it has to be a certain Emery.
The old car texture, I think, is substantially preserved with that car. I mean, obviously it's more modern in some respect, but if you care to call that a resto mod, there's a lot of resto mods that take a lot more liberties in terms of modernizing a car, where you lose the old car character. And I don't think those cars are on that page. They still feel like old cars.
That's
all
it.
The ways we like.
You mentioned
there's a level of honesty there, which I think they keep.
Yeah, that's it. You mentioned the name Charlie Nierberg, who's just such a great guy. I spent some time with him too when we were running to O'Reilly to get some parts for the D-Type. And he was in one of the aisles, and I just kind of elbowed the woman at the counter. I said, if you only knew the car that these parts were going but he's got an Emery. He's got an early Emery, but I think it's a turbo Emery or something. And that car is not allowed because it's got the visual clues and the horsepower.
I think he's got like quite literally one of everything.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like a car he doesn't have that is also just not spectacular at the same time.
No, and just a hell of a nice guy too. How about that other comp, the red one with the white stripes? That you saw it, right? It was so good.
A short wheelbase? Or?
Short wheelbase. I don't know what the stripes were. Some sort of race livery,
Yeah, I think it was a comp car. Yeah.
Okay.
It had an art sticker on it, right?
Yes.
So it was probably an alloy comp car. I don't know the history of that car.
God, it had a presence though. It was palpable. So what else can we geek out on that just blew your minds? The Maseratis.
Yeah, I think the McAllister, you brought it up. The McAllister Testarossa is pretty spectacular.
God, yeah,
I mean, that's like the Testarossas. I think that the 250 GTO gets kind of a lot of credit for the pathway that the Testarossa laid.
Yes.
I mean, those cars from 57 whatever to 61 were virtually unbeatable, right? And his particular car. Won Sebring? I think it went to Le Mans. Maybe it was successful. Won Nürburgring with all great drivers. I mean, I think Von Neumann sat in that car. Phil Hill probably sat in that car. There's champions that drove that thing, right? And I think the special part about that car being at that event is it's highly original, highly preserved. The paint is chipping off of it in multiple locations, right, kind of throughout. But they've kept it
really
extremely
cool.
honest. Yeah, it's just like it last raced, right? Whereas an old race car, and they've serviced it and it runs great, but it's how it was back in the 50s.
Well, and I think
And
that sort of speaks to what you two were saying as far as your experience on the Grand and what spoke to you. And I think, Ryan and I talk about this all the time too. It's like we're here because we love cars, but we love driving. And so getting to see these cars being driven and enjoyed, and especially a car like that where you can literally see how it's been enjoyed and what that impact was on the car itself. Like, I think that really strikes a chord for all of us because we're like, yes, it's being used for what it was designed to do and people are enjoying it.
Yeah. I mean, those cars are so spectacular to drive. Any Testarossa that is well sorted is such a phenomenal car. The feedback it gives you, the power it has. I mean, it's just, I don't know if there's a more entertaining car from that period, which is why they were so successful too. But certainly a super special thing.
Totally. And a very valuable car. It's a high 2-digit millions number. And, for those of you listening who are afraid to take your Porsche out in the rain because it might melt, just know that the driver of this car took that thing through some pretty serious weather. It's an open car. It's got a bunch of wires down in the footwell. The paint's flaking off, to your point. It's worth a hell of a lot of money, and yet he was out there thrashing it in the weather. I mean, it was just
That's awesome.
Well, the flip side also is that if it's worth that much, it's almost impossible to total.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
sort of freeing, right?
Yes, that no matter what its cosmetic condition is or anything that happens to it, short of complete destruction, its value is not going to really be affected.
Yeah, I suppose.
I also don't think I would ever want to paint that car again, though. I think that's part of it. And if you hurt it, you're going to have to.
It's
right.
It's got this amazing sort of Germanic style numbering on it, and it's just that was obviously hand painted, and it's just again just oozes patina and history and all that. But you've driven these cars, Taz?
Yeah, I was going to drive a Testarossa at Velocity last year, which ended up being canceled, but I did shake the car down a little bit. And my father and I have a 750 Monza, which is 2 or 3 years earlier than that car, which is a 4-cylinder Ferrari, similar to the TRC that was on the event with us as well.
Sure, yeah.
A little earlier Scaglietti body design, bigger 3-liter instead of 2-liter to the TRC. So yeah, cool. I certainly have a lot of experience in the Ferraris, maybe not as much in the Bentleys.
And I understand your dad, Patrick, is really one of the world's foremost 12-cylinder Colombo Ferrari engine guys. Is that right?
Yeah, we've certainly done a lot of both Lampredi and Colombo engines at our shop. I think I've become a little bit more Lampredi biased. Because I've certainly built a lot more Lampredi and rebuilt a lot more Lampredi engines in recency. But yeah, we've done a lot of both.
Yeah. What is it about those engines that you prefer?
A Lampredi versus a Colombo?
Yeah, because I don't know much about the differences.
I think they're just they're complex. There's a lot of things that you have to get right. The 410s, right? The two 410s, they're massive, nearly 5-liter, huge V12 engine, right? But there's a lot of things that you have to get right with those engines in order for them to work. They have screw-in liners into the cylinder heads, so there's no head gasket. The reason they came up with the Lampredi design was to eliminate the head gasket because it was difficult to get a head gasket that could last some of these endurance races like the original Mille Miglia or Le Mans 24 hours events as such. So they came up with the Lampredi design that Lampredi came up with the Lampredi design that functioned really well. But getting those engines to work well today is also yet another challenge.
Yeah. What are those cars like to drive? I mean, because even, in their day, they were different, I think, than everything else, right? I mean, are they just magic? I mean, there must be a lot of work, but what is it like to wheel one of those?
I think it kind of depends on the car. I think there was such differences in cars. I think that my Monza is such a fabulous car to drive, but it has independent front suspension and it has a transaxle and a DD rear end. And I think it was technologically very advanced. It's super torquey, only revs to 6,000 RPM, but you have a lot of torque at the bottom. But the car is, very well balanced, works really well, slides around a corner really well. And meanwhile, like a couple years earlier, they're making 225s and 212s that are transverse front leaf spring. And luckily there was none of those on the event, so I can say that they drive like a truck, right? And I think it just kind of depends on what car that you're speaking of.
Yeah. Just most of us will never have the the chance, right? So all we can do is ask people like you.
Different states of tune and stuff like that. The early Ferraris are basically a big number soup. I mean, they made all these different cars, and they all have different numbers. And they would sometimes give the same number to two cars that were extremely different. So the type of car that it is, open sports car, the car like Taz is describing, or like a Testarossa, was basically the equivalent of like a Le Mans prototype in nowadays. And then the cars like GTO or SWB or TDF are more like GT3 cars.
Okay.
Which is to say, one is like a clean sheet dedicated sports car thing that was specifically designed to win outright at endurance races and non-endurance races. And another car is sort of vaguely street derived, and so it's less exotic and less like sort of out there technologically, but maybe more useful and well-rounded and like a more suitable car to use for on the street. And that's why it's all the more remarkable to see these very focused sports cars like Testarossas or TRCs or D-types and C-types. Any of these cars that don't even have weather equipment or roofs or windshields big enough for wipers, and to see these guys out there in all kinds of weather all day long in these things. And these guys are obviously very wealthy, and that they choose to be so uncomfortable and are okay with it. It's the opposite of the sort of fragile, wealthy people that would never do anything for themselves. These are altogether, they're sportsmen, basically. And you have all this tremendous respect for what it took to get these cars to do this in period, and it's very much a sort of, you feel like you've done something afterwards.
You mentioned the people too. I mean, that's kind of the whole other side of this, the conversations that you have during the Grand, and the people, you don't always know who you're talking to. Then you find out later, someone elbows you and say, hey, you know what that was you're talking to. But some fascinating people with some fascinating stories and paths to where they are. I think there were a few folks that flew in on their own jets, of course, but super nice people, just a great crowd. But I think that's one of the best parts, is just at the end of the day, hanging out and having that drink or over dinner or whatever, and just swapping stories. It's just a very special thing. So glad you guys could be a part of it for sure, and definitely hope to have you back. Maybe we should pivot a little bit to your business, OTS and Co. In Berkeley, California, because as you mentioned, you helped Dan find his car, and I know you checked it out and all that before he took delivery as well. And it's been a great car for him. I checked out your inventory, because you're a brokerage, right? But you're also kind of like a car matchmaker, right? You do a little bit of everything. You say Sherpa on the website, which I like, because I think that sort of sums it up, right? I want to steal that from you. But so tell us, if you would, just a bit about the business and what you specialize in.
Sure. Taz and I think, approached from different, or we arrived here from different locations. I had more history in selling these cars, and Taz has been working on them since he was a child and around them his entire life. And so I came from the space of interacting with transactions and doing a fair bit of that over the decades. I guess it's been over 20 years now that I have been around these cars in a professional sense. And worked all those years for other people, and finally decided it was time to do something of my own and work for myself. I think that's a similar story among anyone who's really, I think, substantial in this business now, is that they work for other people. Eventually they figure out what to do and what not to do from other people, and set out on their own if they have the network and the desire and the interest and the enthusiasm to do all that. So that we started the business together because we wanted to work for ourselves and participate in transacting these cars and have the networks to do so. Taz obviously knows all the big Ferrari guys, and also from the racing world, lots of useful racing contacts as well. And I have dealt with almost everything that is, in terms of European sports cars and some non-sporting cars too, because I've worked for dealers that transacted those types of cars. So we decided to set out on our own and sort of transact cars in a way that is based on knowledge and experience and expertise and passion. A lot of people are about the transaction, or sort of they like the action or the chase. The deal making is almost incidental for me, at least. It's really the chance to interact with these cars and the people who own them and sort of share my enthusiasm and knowledge. So we try to know what we're talking about in depth as much as we can, and when we find people who know more than us, and we learn as much as we can from them. But for me, I really like learning about these cars, and it's almost like an excuse to turn all that nerdy enthusiasm that I had about learning as much as I could about these cars into some kind of sort of way that allows me to eat.
Yeah.
Wild.
Important. Yeah. Yeah. Well, so few people, get to do what they're passionate about, right? I mean, there are a lot of people that are just wasting away in offices, as we speak. And, so I love that you two have followed your passion.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll kind of do anything that's interesting effectively, but obviously Ferrari is, we're strong at because of Taz's network, but Ferrari market's not in the best health right now. So we're happy to do other stuff too. But,
okay.
I would say, I don't know, what are some of our highlights? Lancia Stratos was a big one for me. I adore that car.
Yeah.
And I was really glad Taz got to drive one, because it's one of the most exciting cars I've ever driven. And the motor and transaxle are very familiar to Taz because he's worked on so many 246s. And so that has certainly been one of the major highlights for me of the cars we've done. We've done an F40, which is obviously really exciting. Plenty of RS Porsches, 73 and 964 and 993, and some more modern stuff too.
Yeah, it's been fun for me because it's been an outlet to be able to try some pretty spectacular different cars that aren't Ferraris. One of the cars that I was extremely impressed by was, we had a track day, and a Carrera GT came out. There's an F40 there's an F50 there, and there's a Carrera GT. And I'd experienced the F40 and F50 before, but the Carrera GT was a new experience. And I was able to spend 5 laps or so on track in the Carrera GT, and it was such an unbelievably epic car. It felt like a real race car on track, except it was, had a nice steering wheel, and I don't know if there was a cup holder or not, but there was leather around, and it was such a fantastic thing. I mean, I think it would be my only car solution, and coming from a Ferrari background, that seems like something that I shouldn't say. But it was, it's probably up there in one of my top 5 cars, just for how spectacular it was on the racetrack.
Yeah. That's so neat. I got to drive one for my first one a couple months ago. Thanks, Brian Rudin, who was on the Grand as well. And of course, all I could think about was that clutch, right? And you go over and over in your head, just let the clutch out, no gas and all that, and then you immediately forget about it at the first stoplight, right? Because I wasn't on the track, I was just on the road. But I had really the same experience in that. I just thought it was epic. I mean, it's been a dream car, poster car for me since it was new, way out of my reach. But I was glad I got to experience one, because they truly are special. And I think that's the story, right? It was supposed to be a race car, and then they decided to, for whatever reason, to sell it as a street car. It didn't qualify. The series was canceled or something. I don't remember.
The engine certainly was intended to go racing. And then they sort of picked up the pieces, not unlike the BMW M1.
Yeah, right on.
It's a similar story.
So,
we like the stories of the cars, and obviously the experience is a really important part of the appeal also. But it's always nice to get to meet these cars that were heroes. Not always nice. That's not true. Sometimes roundly disappointing. To meet a car that was a hero car, and then to learn, but in some sense it's a relief, because you can cross it off your list of things that you'll never be able to afford, but thought you wanted, and now you don't. So that's
right.
So you can't leave us hanging. You gotta tell us what at least one of those cars was.
For me, so Taz, I guess you should be thinking about one of the most disappointing cars you've ever driven. I think a lot of disappointment has to do with the delta between expectation and reality. And I guess if I had to put something on that list, it would be Porsche 959.
Really?
Yeah, and when you think about it, like if you do a little bit of analysis on it, it makes sense. But it's turbocharged and it's 4-wheel drive and it's very high tech and it's very interesting to drive that car back to back with say an F40 because the F40 is such this sort of raw elemental pared down thing. There's no carpets and the dashboard looks like it's basically made out of Velcro. I mean, I think it's probably Perlon or something like that. It's just this very elemental pared down car that is rear wheel drive with no, ABS or power steering or any of that junk. It's just like car, and motor. And the 959 is exactly the opposite approach. It's really refined and there's leather everywhere and it's incredibly high tech and sophisticated and it's meant to make it incredibly easy and sort of effortless to go fast. And it does exactly that, which, makes it maybe good for commuting, but as a tool for entertainment, it's actually kind of lacking. And I should have known that, you look at the numbers and you realize, well, it's a very high performance car. It's got to be exciting. And then you drive it and you're like, it's so easy and effortless to go this fast that you're kind of like, oh, it's a little almost like driving a modern Porsche Turbo. I would say the exact same thing about, which is formulaically very similar, twin turbocharged. Well, now they're not even manual anymore, and 4-wheel drive. And it's just really, really good at going fast. But just because it's good at going fast doesn't mean it's fun or interesting or entertaining. And so I had these high expectations as this exotic that's so sophisticated and forbidden fruit and all that stuff. And 11 days out of 10, I will choose an F40 over a 959. I would choose a Carrera 2 with like $12,000 of modification.
Right.
Interesting. So this is me curmudgeoning, but grumpy about something. But that was probably one of the more disappointing hero cars, which was fine. So now I don't need to own one.
The F40 though really is one of the greats, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's the one. That's the one. Are you guys into any new stuff like Porsche GT cars?
Like F40 is pretty contemporary, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess in the scheme of things, compared to some of the cars we've talked about.
Someone who builds Lampredi motors, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
New cars, contemporary. No,
you quite like I mean, there's some things that you do like. You were surprised by the Scuderia that had the manual swap. Right?
We had 360 Townstradale.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is still a 20-plus-year-old car.
Sure.
I mean,
you still plug a computer into it. I think like that justifies its newness.
That's the metric.
Yeah, and it has functioning air conditioning, and there's a button on the key that unlocks the door also, so it's pretty modern.
I personally, there's certainly new Porsches and Ferraris that I like. I mean, I think a 296 is such a spectacular car. I've driven one of those around Buttonwillow, and I thought that car was absolutely stellar. A 992 GT3 car feels like a race car on street tires. Even it still just brakes, acts, responds like a race car on track. I don't have a lot of street time in those cars, so I can't really speak to their like everyday life. But on a racetrack, they're really spectacular, and certainly that's half the battle with me sometimes.
The problem with those cars on the street is that they are so capable that you will never be able to explore that capability on the street, and to me that is such a disappointment because I really like exploring the envelope, and those cars, the envelope is so large that you never get the chance to visit the car's capability unless you're on track. And for me, that will always make the car. Yeah, it will always make it a bang and not a marry. And that's why I love old cars.
Is that our show title? I'm just saying. No, that's a good answer. That's a good.
I can't even blame it on drinking anything. I'm drinking water.
What do you guys daily drive? I'm just curious. Is it something older, or is it just something utilitarian? Or
go ahead, Taz.
I have a BMW 128.
Right on.
That I like.
Yeah.
It's a happy little car, and then I have a 250 Ford F-250 Transit van.
Oh, sure, makes sense.
Also doubles as a daily sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
That's a really unique 2-car solution. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, you can live in the van. You can fit a go-kart in the back of it. Yeah. It's very happy.
I was going to say you could sort of jokingly say you could fit the BMW in the back of the van, which is
you almost could.
Yeah.
And what about you, Derek?
Well, so
That's supposed to be an easy question, right? But it's clearly not in the car world.
I think you're most commonly on bike because you're coming across the bridge.
Oh, right on. Okay.
I have a pretty gnarly commute in terms of traffic. It's 15 miles, if that, but it's a lot of traffic if you do it wrong. It could be an hour if you do in a car if you do it at the wrong time. So I ride Ducatis.
Nice.
And then for cars, I don't know. I have a 264,000 mile 1995 Mercedes E320 station wagon, which is kind of functioning as a daily, and then I have a 911 SC that's kind of hot rodded that is also acting kind of as a semi-daily when I'm not on the bike. I don't know. All cars kind of cycle through daily use.
Oh,
I mean, as they should, right?
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of the 124s. I just think those are peak Mercedes. I mean, those are the cars that
don't get me started. I will go on for hours, but I've had, a dozen of them at least.
They're so good. I drove one recently for the first time in years, and I was reminded why they're so good. I mean, it's all the stuff built like a bank vault and all that, but glass everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. The ride is incredible. The power is good. They're torquey, right? For what they are. They're just fantastic, fantastic cars. I mean, they're just, in my eyes, peak Mercedes, right? I mean, I wasn't around for the Gull Wings and, all the old stuff. I mean, in this, the stuff that I grew up with, I mean, they're just great. They have held up so well.
Yeah, I totally agree. When we started this business not even 2 years ago with a $10,000 loan. I mean, we were very poorly capitalized at the beginning. And we were, agreed not to take any pay for the first year so that we could fix that problem. And when we needed a company car, the correct solution for this is probably to buy an F-350 diesel or something.
Sure.
Transport parts and have a tow vehicle and all that stuff. I found on Craigslist a $6,000 Mercedes station wagon that, we put the livery on it that looks like the rescue service when you call for roadside assistance.
I've seen that. I didn't know that was yours. My gosh. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that was our solution for $6,000 on Craigslist for a company car. So I made everybody in the company now has to have lots of 124 time because of me.
Nice.
That's really funny.
They're so good.
Well, so you mentioned, we were talking before we started recording, and you guys have a company rally coming up. Can you talk about that? I think it's a pretty fun story.
Yeah, so I plan for my friends just like a small rally of 10 cars, and then you get to go on great roads and you don't have to worry about a hotel that can accommodate 100 people, or actually it's I guess more like 200 people, 100 cars. And so California has these incredible tight back roads that the Cal Nile uses sometimes, but sometimes they can't get into the places that we get into with our small group size. So I do this with my friends all the time, and the company, as a group of us, we've never done one of these. And I said, well, we have to do all this. Everyone has to come. It needs to be team building. It'll be a business expense, and everyone has to go out to the rally. And then somehow, was this you, Taz, that introduced the challenge aspect to it?
I mean, I think like my inner competitive spirit of making everything like a little bit a mini competition, right? I think there need to be like a good rule set. So I thought that all cars should be no more than $2,000, with the exception of like safety and or OEM swappable parts to get the thing running if you need to do so within reason. So, I mean, obviously you can't buy something modern that needs, $25,000 worth of like, a motor swap and stuff like that. But if you find a $2,000 car that you can get stuff at O'Reilly's or so on and so forth and make it a runner, that should be certainly part of it.
Yeah. And you were driving it before we got on the air, and
I was late to get on the air because I was trying to. So I got this car, and Derek says that he knows what it is, but he doesn't really know what it is.
Okay.
It could be he knows that it has a certain type of motor, because that was discovered. But it could be like a Nash Metropolitan. You don't know what it is.
That'd be something.
Right?
So it's a bit of watch this space next week when the event actually happens.
But so I found my car on Facebook Marketplace. I spend most of my nights doing this, not to the satisfaction of my fiance, but I have a huge saved library of $2,000 shit boxes. and this one supposedly needed a clutch slave. So I was like, great. So we went out, looked at it. The clutch slave was already off of it. They said that they had the thing running a couple years ago. I thought, great, I'll bring this home, trailer it over, and then put it up. I got under it. I pushed the release fork in, and there was certainly nothing there. It just went to its extremity, which meant that there was either no release bearing and or clutch in the thing. So I couldn't bring it to the shop because they would see it. So I've done all this in my garage, which I'm still doing. And so a guy that's staying with me helped me pull the motor out in the garage. And then we realized that there was no second gear. So I found 2 free gearboxes and made like 1 gearbox out of 3. And it's back in the car. And it finally went its first mile, maybe in 15 or 20 years today, to the gas station.
Wow.
Where I got momentarily stuck and then late to be on here.
So it runs on gas. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we know is
it's a British 1275 motor.
Okay.
The motor out.
Okay. Interesting.
We started a dry ice business, and I brought the motor over to get dry iced because I'm doing more work than this car probably needs or deserves.
Yeah.
I've been excited about it, and Derek snuck in on the motor while it was getting cleaned.
Okay. All right. Well, we will check back. Yeah.
Is everyone else's Chariot also a secret? Like, are you all showing up and like it's a surprise for everyone?
I know what Derek has, but I have never seen it.
Okay.
So we're all
our third business partner has not yet bought a car, so that's a secret.
Is that right?
That's a secret to literally everyone.
Yes, it's a secret from himself as well.
Right.
Well, supposedly our intern turned employee who's also coming on the rally, I learned has a secret for us that he's got yet another car that we don't know about. So there's still some secrecy. Really? Yeah.
I'm working in the wrong place. Yeah.
He was going to bring some Miata, but he thought that was inappropriate for whatever it was.
Not the answer.
Something yet again.
Fantastic. Can we follow these adventures on Instagram or what?
I'll probably post it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I will definitely post it. We'll I suppose, share. Mine is not a secret really because I've had it already, which is cheating. But it's a $1,300 salvage title Mercedes C280 that we turned into a rally car.
Okay.
And so it's lifted. You can't tell what color it is because it's got so much mud on it.
Wow.
Which is actually was the color of mud before we put mud on it anyway.
It was the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Or no, you said C280.
Yeah. It's late 90s.
Late 90s. Okay, well, that's even more interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would argue it's less interesting, but the rally car and the fact that it's lifted and got
I've never seen one.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we're at an hour. I think that's probably a show. But speaking of Instagram and social media, where do we find you guys? Where do we find your shop?
Yep. So our shop is OTS and Co. And that is, Ottis and Tam-Scott, OTS. So that's pretty polished. And then our personal Instagram, mine is Tam-Scott, and Taz, you are Ottis Racing.
That's it.
Right on.
Perfect.
So, you can follow our misadventures on there.
Yeah, you're both good follows, and really appreciate having you guys on because I know how busy you are. I know you just got back from the Grand. You got a million things going on, and this was very short notice. But really, just wanted to share, the spirit of the Grand with the people listening, and it's a very special thing to me, and it sounds like it was a special thing to both of you as well. And we hope to have you back soon. Love to have you back on the show sometime too.
Thank you for that. It was a pleasure to be here, and the Grand was pretty transcendent. I mean, I'm hooked. I will continue to go back as long as I have a vehicle and I'm allowed.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I feel the same exact way.
Well, Tazio Ottis and Derek Tam-Scott, thank you so much for being on That Car Show. Have a good night, guys.
And remember, always be driving.